Major League Journeymen, a little midweek action. We got some pretty sizable topics here. The coaching hot seat hasn't happened in this league since 2018. No coaches fired. What are we looking at? Is that an axe about to fall, or is it just we're riding this, monitoring this, and making some maybe better informed decisions? I don't know. We're talking about some forwards. Jesus Ferreira, the youngest player in MLS history to score 50 goals. Pretty significant achievement. Does he get enough credit? Does he deserve more? Is he a top tier 1 striker in the league? And then also, we got to talk about Giroud to LAFC. We got to talk about maybe Ben Olsen's comments targeted at USL. Jump in.
What's the toughest part about being a journeyman in a new city?
Well, Gordo, you know this as well as I do. Being a journeyman in a new city or a city that you're staying in is always difficult. The uncertainty of the future. Are you going to stay? Are you going to go somewhere else? Back in 2020 with Nashville SC, when we had a brand new team, everyone coming to a new city, there was only one person that we trusted to get our real estate needs done, and that's Erin Mishu with Fikes Realty Group. She made everything perfect, flawless, seamless. We had absolutely no issues getting into our house here in Nashville, and all my teammates felt the same way. You can check Erin out at majorleague-realestate.com.
Major League Journeyman back in the house. Thank you for tuning in. I got the old reliable, 2 distinguished gentlemen, Alan Gordon, Dax McCarty, myself, Dan Gargan, here to chop up a little bit of MLS. We're talking quite a few different topics, but you know what? I wanted to stick with...
Can we chop something else up first? Are we just going to avoid the elephant in the room? Gargs?
How many elephants are in the room right now?
Well, there's one elephant in the room, which is the fact that I did such a great job hosting the last 20 minutes when your internet was absolute crap. I don't know. The interwebs are talking. I'm just saying.
I'll tell you what. I was going to give you flowers, but it's also not that surprising that you can't even wait for me to open up my monologue before you want to take over. So
you were jumping straight into MLS talk.
Go on, dude. You open it up. Ready? Go ahead. Let's hear it. Go ahead. Rewind. Yours. You're up.
Now, enter the power struggle that I'm dealing with. To all the listeners, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Dude, it actually
welcome to Major League Journeyman. We've got a new guest contributor on. His name is Daniel Gargan, a.k.a. poor man's Danny Carvajal. Gargs, how we doing? We know that your internet, it's been a little iffy lately. Is it better?
The internet is strong today. It's kind of wild. You get your other 2 neighbors to write in and post comments, and now all of a sudden the interwebs are on fire. I can't believe this. Also, not that shocking. Dax finally introduced himself to his neighbors in Atlanta. Hey, listen, man, I can understand why you don't want to talk to anybody in public right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys are in a tough way. I get it.
Yeah, I'm definitely wearing a hat and glasses to the grocery store.
Oh man, you guys are not in a good space right now. We were actually talking first time in Major League Soccer since 2018 that the league, any club has not fired its head coach. And we've been talking about hot seats a little bit. I'm not going to throw you on the hot seat, but philosophically, does it seem like this is more of a financial decision, or are maybe ownership technical groups taking a little bit more of a look at longevity? And we've talked about how successful Jim Curtin has been after having been given a much longer leash. I think there's other examples that we can probably point to where coaches finally get their implementation and their players, their rosters, etc. Do you feel like that is what's happening, Gordo, or do you think that they're just kind of waiting and something could drop this week?
I think it's probably because most of the guys on the hot seat right now have just been hired. So it's like a little too soon, right? With Neville, Caleb Porter, who else am I missing? I mean, these guys have just been hired.
In San Jose.
And so from a GM's perspective, these guys have big egos, and it's like they have to admit that they were wrong. And let's take Portland, for example, where he's going to say now that the fans were right and just fire him 9 games into the season. That's a tough look. So I think a little bit of it is like hoping, giving them one more game and one more game and one more game until they finally get a win and like get this streak that Major League, Major League Soccer has been known. Like everybody's going to hit their streak. They're just like kind of begging for it. But I guess that's it. I don't know. I can't think of anything else. And then you got guys like Schmetzer, who's earned the right to have a bad season, right? You got guys like Gary Smith, who's in a tough way, but he's probably earned a way to have a little bit of a longer leash. And like that, so
we
it's
talked
like
about Peter Vermees last year, who had that iconic slide that he had that they stuck with him. And do you feel like, let's talk about Ned in particular in Portland, because there was so much fanfare around that hire originally where they did not like it. Portland's fans did not like it. Do you feel like Ned actually might earn some credibility with the fans if he goes and makes that decision now?
Dax, what do you think? I don't know, dude. I don't see how I think it's a lose-lose for him.
So. I don't think you earn any credibility. I think you double down on the flames that you're about to bring upon yourself, because you're basically saying, I made a mistake. I screwed this up. And then how long is it going to take before you get it right again? I don't think so. I think that you have to see out whatever timeline that you discussed with these new coaches, and you have to give them a couple transfer windows. I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer in that, yes, a coach can come in and say, I like this piece, I like that piece, I like this piece, but I need XYZ over the next couple transfer windows, and I can get to my best, which is great. It's a great sales tactic from every new coach.
It really is.
Let me buy myself some more time. Hey, guess what? I really like your roster, Ned, but I think I need like this position, and you buy yourself a little bit of time, right? And
I need like 5 more DPs, and then I'll be good.
Yeah, I do think in general, it's just fundamentally flawed to think that every coach who comes in to a new team is going to be able to be Wilfried Nancy. Not to keep harping on how well he's done, but like when he took over Montreal, it was like instant. You could tell the difference between how good they are, right? And I think Wilfried Nancy's more of an outlier, right? These other guys, maybe they're not at his level tactically, but at the end of the day, they do deserve time. They deserve time to make the team theirs. When you're trying to break down these rough starts to the season for me, Gargs, it falls more in line with why we haven't seen a coaching change. Is I think owners now are a little bit more methodical about how they want to build teams. And they see guys like Jim Curtin. They see guys like Peter Vermees have the longevity that they've had. And more often than not, they've had successful teams. So I think it kind of skews a little bit that way rather than the financial side of it, right? Like I have no idea how much money any of these coaches are making. Probably good money, but not like, we're not talking like multimillionaires here, right? So I don't think it's that.
I think coaches are definitely in 7 figures for sure. I would say the majority.
That I don't think that would be majority of the league. Let's be honest.
No,
I don't think
absolutely
so.
Not.
I
think it might be a couple guys maybe at that level, but let's be honest. I don't think it's a financial thing for these owners. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket for them. So I think it's more of a, how much time are we going to give these guys to build a team and to come through?
But to your point, I don't know. I think I probably would agree with the majority of the things that you're saying. Here's the one caveat to that. Now, with the way that ownership groups are spending in the front office, we're talking about armies in the front office, right? That are paid to build rosters. A head coach's job is what? To get results. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, until they're not there anymore. So I don't know if I probably agree, which is not in defense of coaches, I guess. I feel like coaches, you have an ideology, you have a philosophy in the way that you want to play, which probably has to come out or should come out within those conversations with your technical director, your sporting director, or whoever. But it's not like these guys are walking into talentless rosters. There's a ton of money being spent on the roster all over the place. And they might not fit the exact style of the way that they want to play, but there's, in my estimation, plenty of players that could fill roles and get results. So then I guess it goes back to how much are you willing to bend to get to your ideal destination of playing the way that you want to play as a coach.
Well, especially when a guy like Pablo Mascheroni is winning and he doesn't have the budget, and that doesn't do anything for your argument of, not yours, Dax, but the coach's argument of I don't have the players to win. You have enough talent to win on your roster, and Pablo proves it, right? It's just about getting them together.
There's plenty of coaches out there that are proving it, I feel like.
Let's also address this. I think that there is this belief, and it's probably fair, that MLS, let's call it 10, 15 years ago, if a coach got fired, he was probably going to be hired by the club down the road the next day or whatever, if you needed a new coach. I think that instead of having a happy trigger finger, those technical front offices, Dan, that you referenced, that are putting together all the analytics and a candidate, a pool of people who's available, maybe they look at what else is out there and they say, we still believe that our guy is the best man for the job.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's all about timing. Even the coaches, I would say, for the majority that are on the hot seat or the supposed hot seat, whatever, are pretty good leaders and have been successful in a lot of different places. So, but that doesn't discredit the now, right? And I think that that's something that, with the way that we maybe just look at MLS 3.0, I was expecting to see probably quicker trigger fingers from some of these ownership groups, but that hasn't been the case. Don't know. There's some tenured coaches though that, you referenced Nashville off to a really tough start.
Well, how about this? How about this, Gargs? And I don't know. I'm asking this question. Do you think that GMs are waiting for a summer transfer window for coaches? Do you think that that's a thing to where they're going to hold on to a coach and wait till, because the league is growing to 3.0, like you referenced, are they starting to target higher profile guys and see who may lose their job at the end of their seasons and maybe picking up some coaches in the summer transfer window? And
I think very much the talent that's out there, absolutely. I think it's got to be considered. The other thing that probably as we talk through this right now, the amount of summer games and the profile around summer games has changed dramatically as well. And making a coaching change right this second, that's a gamble. It is a big gamble to come in and have new ideas, have a new philosophy, have all the culture that surrounds that change on May 13th. These are not small decisions any longer. No. And maybe that discredits the decisions before them, which I'm not trying to do, but these are massive choices that some of these guys are probably considering on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Gordo, you're talking about some of these clubs, some of these sporting directors watch training every day and walk away with a feeling left or right, which is also,
I guarantee it. You ever watch training? You're coming away with something.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what happens. One of the coaches that I would say is not on the hot seat though, Ben Olsen, in this past weekend, U.S. Open Cup game against Detroit City FC, DCFC, says the following about the USL, that the level is, air quotes, not even close. And this is after having lost to the team. As a player that's played in USL, I played for the Puerto Rico Islanders for a few games. Played in Champions League at the time, played TFC, beat them, Columbus Crew beat them, and Cruz Azul tied 3-3. This is eons ago, right? Do you guys feel like that's an accurate statement for Ben to make, calling the USL not even close to MLS?
No.
Yes.
Expand, Dax.
It is closer than not even close. There is a gap, okay? MLS clubs, top to bottom, have more quality and more depth. There's zero argument.
Sounds like there's being a fence being built here that somebody's about to straddle.
But to say that it's not even close is, I think, a little bit of sour grapes from Ben. And I love Ben.
Totally.
Ben is unapologetically himself. He's unapologetically honest. I think Ben believes that if he plays, and to a certain extent, most coaches of MLS teams would probably believe, if you put your best 11 players on the field in 10 games against a USL team, and they got their best team, and 5 of those games were at home, 5 of those games were on the road, an MLS team is going to win probably six out of 10 times, with a couple maybe draws in between, and maybe the USL team will snag a victory here and there. That makes it sound like there's not a huge that there is a huge gap, right? I look at these games in the Open Cup where, look, you can choose how you want to rotate, how you want to prioritize. Reality is you're not putting your best 11 on the field until the final. So let's take a look at what happened in the final. Last time a USL team made the final, Sacramento against Orlando. In Orlando, by the way, and Sacramento was fantastic. It looked like an MLS game. It looked like an MLS team playing against another MLS team, and Sacramento was on the road. Okay? So I look at a game like that, and I think that is more in line with what you can consider between the two leagues. The MLS team won because what they could do was they could bring in a multi-million-dollar transfer off the bench to change the game for them, which is, I think, exactly what happened. I think it was a close game. Sacramento had chances, by the way. And that was a final. That was a final where you got the best of both teams, okay? I don't look at what Ben says as him actually believing that. I think he said that because he was pissed off at a reporter, and he was pissed off at his team, and he said, nope, the levels aren't close. I fundamentally don't believe that. I think they're much closer than people want to give credit for. I think USL has come a long way in the last couple of years. That being said, Gordo, the floor is yours as to why they aren't even close and why he's right. But I generally think that they're much closer than what he's saying.
Well, I was going to say exactly what you just said. I was going to say that no, not not the entirety, but what you closed with. I truly believe that was a shot at his team. Okay. I thought it was a shot at his team, and he was basically saying, you guys, he was disappointed in his team's performance. He gets up there, he says, hey, all credit to Detroit, but my team, I'm really disappointed in, because guys that want minutes are getting the opportunity and they don't perform. And it happens all the time. And it's always happened. The only thing I'll say is, you're always in the USL or any other tier 1, tier 2 league, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are closer than the rest. So my only argument would be, if you're looking at the entirety, I think that there's a bigger gap, right? There's going to be some teams in there that have good runs, like Sacramento, and they can beat some MLS teams for sure. But top to bottom, where is it at? I think there's a bigger gap there, and I think the MLS deserves credit into expanding that gap over the past few years, because we're getting really, really good talent, really, really good coaches, and the quality is getting better and better to watch on a daily basis. You can almost turn on any game. I know there's some teams that are tough to watch right now, but you can turn on a lot of games, and there's some quality on the weekends that gets me excited, and I'll sit there. And I can't say that was always the case with MLS. You'd see some more snoozers than quality games. So that's where my head was at with the whole gap thing. I think listen, that explanation is fair, but I don't know if it necessarily aligns with
USL as a whole is not even close.
My issue is the characterization of not even close. Like, you can say that USL doesn't have as much quality as MLS, but you don't have to be that aggressive about it. You know what I mean? Like, it just screams sour grapes to me. Like, it was sour grapes. I don't think Ben actually believes that. If you had a sit-down conversation with a calm Olsen, he would probably say, yeah, like, I think the USL is doing a good job of continuing to improve year to year.
For sure.
Would they be able to compete in MLS year to year? They would probably.
And that's why I agree. That's why I agree with
Gordo. How many times did you have to play in a US Open Cup game on the road where you just are like, I am absolutely miserable right now. This team is much better than I thought they would be. Yeah. And they're kicking the shit out of us. Like, I remember going on the road with Nashville, and we played in Louisville, who, in my opinion, is a fantastic USL team. And they could compete in MLS no problem, especially if they had a little bit more resources. They have their own stadium. And we put out a pretty strong team. Nashville did. And it was we had a little rotation, but we had a lot of regulars playing. And I just remember thinking, dude, this team is going to beat us in the moment. Like, dude, we better get our shit together or they're going to beat us. And luckily, guess who we had on the bench? We had Hani Mukhtar come in off the bench, and he scored the game winner.
It was 1-1, and it was kind of like teetering on the brink. But I kept thinking, like, this team is really good. And I think there are more teams that fall into the bucket of being closer to Louisville than being closer to, I don't even know. I don't know what USL team would be considered on the more poor end of the spectrum. But, like, look at what they're doing in Indy. Look at what they're doing in Tampa. Look at what they're doing in Sacramento. Look at what they're doing in Phoenix. I mean, you can go down the list of these USL teams who, for me, have cultivated this really cool brand. And now they have the quality and the performances to back it up. Now, do I think that they're going to consistently beat MLS teams? No, I don't, because I do think there is a gap, but it's closer than Ben gave it credit for.
Yeah, that was probably my only takeaway. Was it seemed a bit harsh. It was a bit egregious to say not even close. Yeah. And maybe not. There's really no barometer that we can put out there to really test it, but it was, I was surprised to see that from Ben Olsen, a guy that's been around for
Here's a hot take. It's not really a hot take, but if you reverse that final and you play that final in Sacramento, Sacramento absolutely wins the US Open Cup. I know you can't prove that, but that's my take.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but you don't know. That's the point. There are good teams out there. There are good teams that catch fire at the right time that don't need $15 million superstars on the field to be great. And USL doesn't invest like that.
Gordo, we live in crazy times right now. What are things looking like in the real estate market?
Oh, Dax, you know that rates are always going to be the best with Synergy One lending, and those are always going to fluctuate. But one thing that never fluctuates, that's the service you get with Erin from Fikes Realty Group. She is the #1 agent I will refer all my clients to. She handles all the obstacles up front, really takes the stress out of any transaction and move that you have. Check out my girl, Erin Mishu with Fikes Realty Group at majorleague-realestate.com.
You know, there is a $15 million superstar coming over, though. Olivier Giroud has now announced that he is leaving Milan to come to MLS. All signs point to LAFC. Back to strikers and in this league. And another striker that came out of the conversation this past weekend was Jesus Ferreira, the youngest player in MLS to hit 50 goals. And Gordo, we've talked about strikers a lot on this podcast. You are a former striker. Does he deserve more credit? Is he in the top tier of strikers in the league, or is he not?
I feel like he is the only guy that I can think of to compare him to. He's like a Wondolowski. He is an unassuming goal scorer. He's a natural goal scorer who's probably not getting the credit he deserves. So I would say no. If you're the first to 50 at that age, then it's pretty special, right?
That's saying something in this league.
It's saying something, right? And Wando, for the entirety of his career, he was not the sexiest player, but he could score goals, right? Yep. And it just seems like, he's falling under that path because when you watch him, there's not a lot that's special about him. He's not overly fast. He's smaller in size. He's an intelligent player, you can tell. However, there's not a lot of flash, which fans like and the media likes and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. You would think that they would credit the goals that he's scored a little bit more. So I would say that, yeah, he's going to be a guy that's going to be that Wondolowski brink player, right? And never, he's going to be kind of on the national team, kind of not. Can we trust him? Because what's he doing when he's not scoring goals? Whereas all you want to do is for them to score goals, right? But his record with the national team, if I believe, yeah, he scored a few goals, but he hasn't lit it up, right? I don't think any of the strikers can say that they've firmly, in the past since Josie and guys like that, nobody's taken the reins. Even Venezuela, right? What's his name? Venezuela? The Cincinnati guy? You're just going to leave me? You're just going to leave me on a cliff? You're going to leave me on a cliff, guys?
Are you talking about Vasquez?
Yeah, Vasquez.
I was trying to help you out. I just had no idea where you were going.
The only striker with the V at the last name? Yeah, not that you're a smart guy. Like, help me out.
You
Jeez.
said Venezuela.
I was thinking of a Venezuelan guy.
How many Vasquezes are from Venezuela? Thank you. All right. So anyway, I'll just close here since I've provided, all
you're talking a lot more now, huh?
Clips.
Wow. You really have the floor.
Dude, Gordo is upset about
yes, he's getting overlooked. He's getting overlooked.
Oh God, I can't tell you how much I despise that comparison. Oh, Wando for Ferrer? Like, what?
Dude, what do you mean?
What universe are we talking about? Jesus Ferreira and Chris Wondolowski being even close to the same player. This is insane.
So which one do you think is...
If you are saying that Jesus Ferreira is like Wando in the sense that he's never going to be like the main man on the national team, but he'll get some caps, he'll score some goals, then that's pretty much, I think, where the comparison stops. I think they play nothing alike. Nothing alike. Like,
I didn't say they had to play anything alike. I was saying Wando didn't get as much credit as he deserved for being the all-time goal scorer. That's what I said. It has nothing to do with style of play.
It kind of had something to do with style of play. Am I crazy here, Dan?
No, I would probably say that I was following Gordo along with what the expectations of the player were, not necessarily the style of play. So I would probably disagree with you, Dex.
Okay. Well, I thought he was talking about style of play.
Can you please tell me if you feel like Jesus Ferreira deserves more credit for being the first or the youngest in MLS to score 50, but also from a projection standpoint? Like, should we be talking about him in the top tier of strikers in MLS? Because I don't think that he gets discussed at all in the top tier.
It's tough. I'm suffering from recency bias here because obviously he's been injured, and I don't think he's had a good start to the season. Right. But yes, he should be talked about as one of the best all-around strikers in MLS because of his quality, but also because he has the numbers to back it up. So there's no doubt about that. 100%.
Hot take. Do we see him on FC Dallas next year?
Yes.
He's had transfer rumors.
He has. But I don't think he makes too much money in Dallas. I don't think a team's going to pay him as much money as he's making in Dallas unless it's a Champions League club, and I don't think a Champions League club is going to make a big bid for him.
What about another MLS club?
Potentially, but MLS clubs don't have enough tam, thank you, ma'am, to be able to afford.
Is he a DP, Dax, or is he a TAM?
He is a DP.
He's a DP.
Hey everyone, Dax here. Just wanted to drop a quick line and apologize for the abrupt ending to the Jesus Ferreira conversation in this past episode. We had a very, very special guest who we speak about quite often on the pod actually jump on and join us for a truly enlightening conversation. None other than the man, the myth, the legend, head coach of the first place team in the Western Conference as it stands right now, Mr. Pablo Mastroeni, joined us for what can only be described as an absolutely amazing conversation. That episode and that podcast will be dropping this Friday, so we hope you all enjoy and stay tuned for more. Journeymen out.